Morning. I don't have a really fleshed out topic, but I want to explore, systems as both a analytical and an analogical concept, as a concept that captures a great deal of what I think needs to be captured. See, things are sparking in my head as I speak. Okay, so there is a project that me and some friends are working on. Could call it the hyperorganism, could call it the amoeba, could call it any number of things, but I think the primary thing one could speak of it, the way I would speak of it in my own terms, is at least to simply call it a humble system. Humble meaning I could be wrong, so the system could be wrong. And when you expand out certain ideas of humility, ideas of learning from each other, ideas of respecting the other until they give you a final reason to not respect them, meaning you try until you can't anymore, something like that. And this is something like a virtue, right? This is a practice, a discipline, a act in the world which changes the world. That if everyone is practicing it, the world is a completely different place than it is now. It evolves rapidly. The social world does, right? And with it, all other aspects of the world. So it is this idea of absorbing every notion you can from the other through discussion, through, I suppose, being educated by them, but ideally through synthesizing what they have to say into a living system within you, into a tool set, right? So that you are not being converted, but you are absorbing as another tool set. So I could, in theory, learn whatever a Muslim, I forget the name of their preachers or pastors, unfortunately. But I could absorb what they have to say and kind of box it into a category, into a tool set that would allow me, A, to understand them, B, to know how to not offend them, which is, generally important. I'm not trying to say that, how do I say this? I'm not saying just them. I'm saying anybody, how to not offend anybody. Unduly and unintentionally, right? Some people are looking for offense, which is a big problem that we are facing right now in our world, is the looking for offense. But that is a very different topic, and I'm nowhere near having it figured out, and I don't know how to approach it. But anyway, so topic is systems, and I was simply giving some groundwork or some peripheral work to the idea of system. I guess I'll set that aside. I could keep going on that, but I'll set that aside and speak about what a system is. So a system is that which produces an emergent property. That's one way of saying it. I've heard it said better. Another way of saying it is that a system is something alive, right? Whether it's, how do I say this? You can call a machine a system, but it is a very simple system, right? Unless it is an extremely complicated machine. But the most complicated machines are not anti-fragile, usually, right? If something breaks, the thing's going downhill. Whereas in most living systems, truly living systems, most stresses and dangers and, how do I say this? That's not right. It is the case that challenges make systems stronger. Challenges do not make machines stronger. So to the degree to which a machine is not made stronger by challenges, it is a poor system. It can still be categorized as a system. It's just a poor system. All right, so we have other things to talk about systems. Okay, let me see if I can go into the analogical side of this, because that was mostly analysis, distance, this attempt to be biased, which I would define as its own form of bias, which separates us from humanity to a certain degree. But let's continue. Analogical. What is an analogical system? Or how is system defined analogically? I would say, using my analytical terms, that it is a pattern how do I do this? A pattern that exists within another, no. This is kind of hard, actually. What are you doing, dude? All right, so a pattern is that which, this is hard. Because analogically, we're talking about the way the mind views patterns. When I use analytical tools, there's a tendency for the mind to say, aha, we've arrived, we've found the answer. Because you can grasp it and you can, it looks like a tool and it looks like an answer. And therefore we have this bias towards the analytical. And it's a good system, it's a good tool. I like it a lot, but it's not the only system, right? It's not the only system the human mind is capable of generating, utilizing, and which aids in the discovery of truth and survival. The other half of that is the analogical, which is holistic, which is patternistic. Not points, but the interactions between points. And those are much harder to define, right? And in fact, I would say they're nearly impossible to define because Okay, I got 5 minutes to try to summarize what I was saying before my video crashed. And I'm having a little trouble doing that. It felt good. So the analytical is this methodology of simplifying the world and making it graspable, of making the points, the nodes of the world graspable. But the analogical is this systemic thinking. It's inherent in thinking analogically because you are looking at patterns over time in the way they have boundaries and the way they have their outline, basically, instead of the points within. And the inner outlines, if you will, where systems are within that system, but engage in the larger system. And it is a methodology that has many, many viewpoints all around it. I think. I'm almost positive. I'm not always sure that those viewpoints are aware of each other, if you will, if they are hyperlinked together, or if that is just seen as a larger part of the overall system, that's what unifies them. I tend to think the latter. I don't get a sense that when you're in a situation viewing something and gathering data about that system analogically, and then you're in another situation that makes that same system look different, which, can happen simply by walking around it, You see a machine on one side, you see a machine on the other. It may look completely different. Of course, once you're familiar with it, bing, those two systems combine, right? But there are more complicated things, right? So there are patterns we see within people. And no, I'm wrong. The systems are like amoebas. Because when you're observing one, and then you're observing another, and another, and you suddenly find a connecting thread, you feel that. You sense that connection. And they all become a part of the same analogical model, with whatever analytical parallels you've attempted to build. Here's the thing. This is really important. We are often not aware of just how much we are writing off the analogical structure. So that we have this analytical, very minimal analytical structure, which is referencing, so it's like, here's the words, here's the structures, which instead of creating a very analytical structure, very tight, very complex, very interconnected, no contradictions, every word defined well, complete and accurate. Instead of that, it connects into this analogical structure. And our use of terms about that analogical structure all come intuitively, right? Not because of an educated, so to speak, blah, blah, blah. I was doing error quotes with my fingers when I said that. Instead of this complex analytical structure, we are not even aware of how the analytical structure we do have is very rooted in an analogical structure, which is then giving us the information we need for how to observe it. And it's a good system, right? But it has its limitations because the analogical looks at the whole, looks at the within the boundary, the network busyness, the systemic interactions, the emergences, the patterns. The patterns is probably the best way of saying it. Okay, let's put it this way. The analytical does not always recognize the system, but the analogical always does. However, it's the analytical that is capable of discovering the functional parts within the system. And when the analytical finds those points, again, the analogical sees that, and there's that aha moment, and that integrates into the analogical structure. So, in other words, the analogical needs the analytical in order to find these parts, in order to grow and become more complete, more accurate, as an analogical structure. The analytical needs the analogical to discover the whole, the boundaries, the way in which a collection of nodes fits together. Okay, that was pretty good. Thank you for your time. Thanks for joining me. Bye.